angle again. All right, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, Play Fast Football. Glad you guys can join us here on live tonight. I've probably got about 30 or 45 minutes or so that I'm going to try to stay on here live. And I wanted to talk a little bit about tackling and what we do with tackling and how we try to approach tackling. But also, we have just partnered with Atavus Football, and we are now going to be working through their program of how they analyze tackling and what we're doing with that. And next Thursday, a week, April 27th, so a week, 6 days from now, we are going to be doing in my Play Fast virtual clinic series. Scott Lawyer, the director of analytics, former Washington Husky, Division I college football player, very knowledgeable about tackling. He's going to do a tackling clinic next Thursday night. So we just went through an onboarding session with them where they took us through their program and they evaluated 3 of our films. And so I wanted to take the time that I had tonight to talk about tackling, what we try to do with our tackling, what we did last year, where we're going to move kind of in the future of what we're now with Atavus, what we're trying to do, where we're trying to get to. But then I also wanted to talk to you guys and take your opinions on what you do with tackling, how you teach tackling, how often you teach tackling. Because to me, again, all the stuff that I do on YouTube, a lot of it is schematics. A lot of it is X's and O's. A lot of it is whiteboard stuff. And on the YouTube channel itself, what I don't do enough of is the work that we do behind the scenes, while we're playing these 3 high schemes or split field coverage schemes or tight front schemes, what we're doing behind that every day to try and get our kids to, improve on the techniques and fundamentals that they need to improve on. So tackling by far, to me, is the toughest skill to master in football. And it's probably the toughest skill to teach and practice, right? Blocking and tackling on X's and O's. When you're thinking about doing YouTube videos and you're thinking about how you're going to create content and what's going to generate audiences, it's always going to be the X's and O's. It's always going to be the whiteboard material. It's always going to be mesh and shallow cross and split field coverage and quarters and 2 read. But when you actually break it down into coaching and what is going to win and lose football games, it's always going to be blocking and tackling, right? So, from a tackling standpoint, we spend a lot of time doing a bunch of tackling circuits and a bunch of tackling drills and training our kids in the offseason in the weight room to be powerful and to work on triple joint extension. And how are we going to keep triple joint extension in the process of tackling? And how are we going to close space and get ourselves into a position to where we can use triple joint extension? And, the behind the scenes stuff that you're doing as a coach is probably every bit as important as the X's and O's and the whiteboard and 4-2-5, 3-3 stack, 3-2 box, 3 high, mesh, drive, power read, bash, all those things. But as a content creator, when we're talking about like YouTube videos, those things don't generate views. They don't generate an interest. So the tackling portion is really for, the guys that really want to get their program better, the guys that really want to get their team to be a better football team. And what we went ahead and did is, we partnered with Atavus and we bought into the Atavus system, and we are going to use the Atavus system next year. And we send them game film and they analyze our game film and they break down the types of tackles that we are missing. And then they break it down to why we are missing those tackles. And then they give us a layout of drills we should be doing in practice to get better. Because if we really break this down to the simplest science, so when we get our own film and then when we get opponent film and we put it in huddle, we spend all of our time breaking down formations, plays, field and boundary, you know, strong and weak, runs, passes, explosive passes. And we put all our time and effort into all of the analytical, statistical data that we need to put forth a game plan. So to me, when we look at tackling and we analyze our tackling, we're always going to look at missed tackles. We're always going to look at where we could have done a better job. But how much time and how many staff members do we have to physically break down the film and say, this is the tackle we missed. This is the type of tackle we missed. This is why we missed the tackle. And here's what we need to do to get better at preparing to make that tackle. So by partnering with Atavus, what we've done is we've put the onus on them to give us all the information that we need while we still break our film down, we game plan, we get ready for the next opponent. But instead of having myself or assistant coaches try to analyze the tackles that we're missing, why we're missing them, how we're missing them, we've kind of, we've given that job to a third party that is an expertise or an expert, and they are, expertise in the field of tackling, right? So we've given our film to somebody who only works on tackling, only talks about developing better tacklers, and they're now going to provide us with the information. They're going to provide us with the drills. They're going to provide us with the techniques that we need to be using so that as a coaching staff, we can eliminate that part of what we're doing and we can focus on the normal breakdowns of formations and plays and game plans. And then when we get our feedback from Atavus, we can then incorporate that into our practice plan. So, to me, as hard of a skill as tackling is, and as tough as it is to not only perform the art of tackling, but to teach the skill of tackling, why not put your time and energy into somebody who only focuses on tackling? And there's a couple different companies out there. You got USA Football and Tip of the Spear and a bunch of other places. So I'm not saying that you should necessarily, this by no means is an Atavus promotional video. They're going to do a clinic with us next Thursday on my Play Fast virtual clinic series. One of the guys from Atavus, Scott Lawyer, is going to do a clinic for me next Thursday. For any of you guys that have been or have sat in on any of our Play Fast virtual clinic series, that's what we're going to be doing next week. But, I'm not here to sell you on using Atavus. I'm here to sell you on maybe using a third party that analyzes and breaks down your tackling so that your coaches can do the job that they're doing. Because let's just face it, right? I've been a head coach for 24, 23 years, about now an assistant coach, defensive coordinator for a year. How we break our staff down and what we ask our staff members to do for the money that they make and the time and effort that they spend is already, maximized in what we're getting in the value of our assistant coaches, right? The money that they make, the time and effort that they put in to place another job on them to say, hey, somebody needs to break down the tackles we missed, how we missed them, what type of tackle it was. Number one, I don't know if we're smart enough or if we have enough knowledge in the tackling world to do that. And number two, I don't know if we have the manpower to do that, to take away from the other things that we need to be working on. So, by using a third party that is a quote unquote tackling system, all right. And again, this is not, I don't advertise for Atavus. I'm not paid by Atavus. Um, this is not an Atavus promotion, but we have now chosen to use Atavus as our tackling system, and they're going to do a clinic for me. And the thing I would say as a coach is, using somebody that is in the field, that is an expert in the field, and that is what they do, it kind of makes our job a little bit easier. It takes some of the burden off of myself and assistant coaches to break down film and say, where are we missing tackles? Why are we missing those tackles? What do we need to do in practice? We're now, we're shopping that out to a company that is doing the work for us. Now, I realize that every program doesn't have the ability to purchase a third party system. And I get that. I've been a head coach at different programs with different budgets and different socioeconomic backgrounds and different booster clubs. I've been a head coach for 23 years. I know what your struggle is. I understand it. But to me, in the perfect world, this is the best way that we could possibly analyze, evaluate, and approach how we tackle. Now, with that being said, the thing that we're going to have to figure out, because Atavus does a bunch of work with college and NFL teams and elite athletes, what we need to figure out as a staff is, where does what they teach, their analysis and their evaluation of what we're doing, where does that fit into us as a high school program? So I still think, even though we're going to be a member of Atavus football, Atavus tackling, I still think we need to take their opinions, their information, their evaluation of what we do in our games. And I think we need to apply it to what we can do in high school. So, we're at a point where, last year we taught tackling a certain way. And the great thing about the evaluation was Atavus came back and said, hey, you guys keep the helmet out of contact about as good as any program we've ever worked with. So our stats say that we are keeping the helmet out of contact. We are doing a great job with teaching near foot, near shoulder, how to keep the helmet out of the tackle. But their stats also say that we weren't as efficient with creating knockback and limiting yards after contact and eliminating hidden yards with how we track the ball and how we track ball carriers. Their evaluation of our data and our film tells us that we need to be better in what we're doing from that standpoint. So it kind of gives us a baseline evaluation to say, here's where we really need to focus. And our job as a coaching staff in high school football is to take the information that Atavus is giving us and to then apply it based on the time we have, the players we have, the skill set we have, the coaches we have. How do we apply their information in the best way possible for us to improve tackling? So, one of the things that we did last year that we spent a ton of time on, and we did it every pre-practice drill. It was a pre-practice drill for us every single day. We did sprint, shimmy, come to balance drills with near foot, near shoulder. So our kids would be set up on half moon bags about 8 yards away, and they would sprint to the bag, and then they would near foot shimmy, and we would call out right foot or left foot, and they had to near foot shimmy the distance of the half moon bag, right? So maybe 2 yards, 2.5 yards, whatever that may be. Well, you know, our evaluation from Atavus basically told us that our contact timing wasn't very good, and our ability to generate force through the tackles that we were making wasn't very good. We got people on the ground. We didn't have a ton of yards after contact, as far as how they evaluate contact. They evaluate tackling, and you know, a guy that misses a tackle in the open space that doesn't put a hand on somebody, that's not yards after contact. He didn't even put a hand on someone. Somebody that comes up and misses a tackle, but he gets a piece of a player, he gets run over, whatever the issue may be. Those are yards after contact, and those are the yards that you're trying to, you know, eliminate, manipulate to get lower. Where you put yourself in position to make a tackle, you put yourself in position. King Tynan, how you doing, sir? You put yourself in position, but you couldn't finish, right? So they break their tackling down into so many specific areas that we are going to obviously use to the best of our ability next year. But decision making, pre-contact, evaluating the type of tackle, and then the actual contact and the finishing of the tackle, right? So, what we, through our evaluation using the data that they provided to us, we now have to come up with a plan that says this is how we're going to get better, right? So, a couple things that you got to take into consideration. What drills are you doing to track the ball carrier, right? So, all your tracking drills and your near foot, near shoulder drills to get in position. How are you closing to the ball? How are you coming to bounce? Well, for us, that's kind of a 14, 15-year-old junior high content. But if these nuts is, you know, Nolan, if these nuts is still funny to you, then thank you for being here, and I appreciate the comment. You know, for us, it's, are we going to change how we come to balance? Are we going to change how we do our drills with near foot, near shoulder shimmy? What can we do based on the information that Atavus is giving us? How can we then translate that to techniques that we can use? There's going to be some things that we attempt to do slightly different, or we put our own spin on the information Atavus has given us, because at the end of the day, it's our program, it's our kids, it's our coaching staff. But to have the ability to have a third party evaluate and give you information to say, hey, look, this game, you missed these tackles, and here was the reason. Now we have a third party that is separate from us. And the kids, they evaluate us and they critique every player, and they evaluate the attempts that the player had to make tackles in a game, the successful tackles that he made, what were the yards after contact. They do all the work to break that data down. So now, even when you're looking at it statistically, your kids can now throw out the bias of, hey, coach, you judge me harder than someone else. Hey, I don't think my missed tackles, the way you posted them in the locker room, I don't think those are fair. We're now using a third party system that has no dog in the fight. They have nothing to say that number 17 and number 20 and number 8, they don't even know who those kids are. So now when we provide an evaluation system to our kids that says, hey, look, you had 17 tackle attempts, you only made 11 tackles, and here's why you missed those 6, and here's the yards after contact on the tackles that you made. That is, it's non-negotiable. That's a third party telling us, based off our film, what the information is. So it kind of gives you an evaluating system, not only to get better as a tackler, but to use that system with your players to now say, hey, look, guys, here's what Atavus told us. They don't coach here. They don't have favorites. They don't even know who you are. They don't even see you on an everyday basis. So if this third party is now evaluating the film this way, then that's really what we should go on, right? So, I think a lot of us that are coaching football at a lower level. A lot of us that are trying to teach the game fundamentally, technically, I think we all are trying to do things that we think are in our players' best interest. How often we do tackling circuits, the type of tackling circuits we do, how we're going to teach tackling. I think our goal as coaches is always going to be the best result that puts our players in the best position to tackle effectively and safely, right? Well, by using a third party system, you're now giving somebody who only evaluates tackling. They're not looking at my film and going, hey, coach, when you play palms or you play quarters, here's what I think you should do. They're looking at it from a tackling perspective and they're breaking it down and using their knowledge base to give you a system to implement that is hopefully going to help you get better at tackling, right? So to me, it's a matter of the time and effort that we want to put in. What can I ask of my coaches? How much can I ask them to evaluate? How much analytical data can we pull from a film when there's only 4 or 5 of us and we're working on 17 different things? So, the third party gives us a non biased evaluation of our players. It gives us a non-biased way that we need to approach tackling for us to get better. It gives us a system practice-wise to set up based on the amount of time that we have to tackle and work on tackling. It gives us drills, techniques, fundamentals, coaching points, all the things that we need to improve on tackling. And it takes the onus off of us as a staff to put together what we want to do with our tackling. It gives us a focal point, it gives us a direction to go in, and it gives us a way that we can focus on getting better at the art of tackling. So for us last year, when you look at the evaluation of it, we got people on the ground. We were very safe eliminating helmet contact. All the things that we set out to do, we certainly accomplished. But where we were a little bit lacking was our tracking of the ball carrier, how we track the ball carrier, how we get to the point of contact, what is our decision making, and the types of tackles that we are choosing in each scenario that we were in at the point of tackling. So, to me as a defensive coordinator, if I've got all these other things that I have to worry about, and I've got to worry about game plans, formations, how are we going to line up to those formations, what coverages are we going to play, what's our pressure system look like this week? If I have to worry about all that, what time do I have to really analyze and break down how we tackled, the decisions we made in tackling, the tackles that we missed? There's no way I can do a good job doing that along with all the other things that I have to do as a defensive coordinator. So, buying into a system, every program, and as a head coach, I don't know if the programs that I was at in the past could afford to use a third party system. That's going to be up to you with your coaching staff, your budget. If you're an assistant, bringing this to your head coach and saying, hey, look, I think we need to look at this. What I'm saying is, if you had the scenario where you could buy into a third party system that is a tackling system only, it makes 100% sense. Now, again, it could be USA Football. It could be Tip of the Spear. It could be anybody that's out there promoting tackling. If they're going to do the work to analyze and evaluate how you tackle, the types of tackles that you're making and missing, where you can get better as a football team. Well, if all things considered, budget was not an option, why would you not use that avenue? So, in the off season, you're going to go to clinics and we're going to read articles and we're going to get on YouTube and we're going to get on the internet and we're going to scour every piece of information we can find. Well, I'm pretty sure when you are looking at that information, you're going to look at who has been the best on offense, who has been the best on defense. So right now, offensively, if you are going to study college football, everybody in the world is going to look at Tennessee. Why are they going to look at Tennessee? Well, they beat Alabama. There's number one. They got themselves back to being a prominent SEC powerhouse. Their numbers, their stats, what they were doing are off the charts. So right now, Tennessee, just like Oregon with Chip Kelly years ago and Baylor with Art Briles, and any offense that is that efficient, any offense that is that dominant. And again, were they not dominating against Georgia? Okay, well, Georgia won a national title. When you look at every other game that they played and the results of what they're doing, that's going to be the offense that people are going to study, right? So in high school football, we still have to play to our means. There's still going to be wing T teams. There's going to be flex bone teams. There's going to be single wing teams. And how you move the football and how you get points to me is irrelevant. You have to do what you need to do in your program, and you have to coach what you think makes you most comfortable. But if you look at the clinic scene and you look at the YouTube scene and you look at the social media scene, Tennessee dominates all the talk that I see on social media, YouTube. They're the flavor of the week. They're the hot offense. They're the go-to right now for everybody that wants to look at how to improve. And, for me, when I look at it, tackling is a fundamental. If we're going to study and go to clinics to learn tempo and how Tennessee uses tempo and how they teach tempo and vertical choice passing game and, downhill vertical running game, if we're going to spend our time as coaches looking at that information and we're going to spend our time studying that stuff online, YouTube, Twitter, subscription sites, whatever it is, that whatever rabbit hole you go down to fulfill your sickness that you probably have, if you're one of the 4 people watching this live right now, why would you not go down that avenue for tackling? Why would you not invest your time into somebody who spends their time analyzing tackling, right? So to me, it's about not only getting better, but it's cost effectiveness. It's bang for your buck. Where are you going to put your money and get a return on investment? So we have just started using near foot, near shoulder, new to it, like the 2v1 scenario versus rugby style tag. Yeah, your 2v1 vice drills we do every day. We do all the time. We do 2-man vice, 3-man vice, constantly talking to our players about leverage on the ball, inside pad leverage, position maintenance. Where do I want to send the ball? Where is my partner? We do those drills all the time. And that's the game of football in general. The game of football moves where your kids are going to be in a defensive structure, in a special teams situation. What types of tackles are they making? Vicing the ball, leveraging the ball. Those are always going to be huge. And near foot shoulder deal is a way that you can vice the football to a partner, knowing that you're going to keep your helmet out of the tackle, and you and your partner can be as physical as you want to be without any thought or fear of going helmet to helmet, right? So if I'm near foot, near shoulder on this side and my partner is near foot, near shoulder on the other side, both of our helmets are eliminated from the equation, and we can be as aggressive and as physical as we want tackling that ball carrier with no fear of helmet to helmet contact, right? So, that's why you teach near foot, near shoulder. That's why we're away from, good evening, William. I hope you're doing all right, bud. That's why we've gotten away from head across the bow, along with other issues of what's causing concussions, what's causing injury. It's the safety, but also the efficiency, right? So, to say that we're just preaching the safety, yes, we're preaching safety. It's the world we live in. Yes, we're teaching helmet out of contact. If you really want to look at the safety of what's going on in the game of football, there's still to this day per capita, based on the amount of players playing, there's more concussions in men's soccer than there are in football, percentage wise, based on how many soccer players are on a team, how many concussions do they have, how many concussions do we have. The problem is the game of football with the audience and the NFL and college and the amount of people that watch it and then the amount of players that are playing, right? So if we got 85 guys on a roster and we have 3 concussions and a soccer team has 18 guys on a roster with 1 concussion, well, when you break it down, you know, per capita, per body, statistically, they have more of a concussion issue than we do. But CTE, brain damage, all these other things in the football world and the collisions that are happening in football lead everybody in the public to believe that we're the ones with the problem, right? So we've got to talk about how to eliminate head to head contact, helmet to helmet contact. Well, how many drills are soccer coaches doing that when they train, they work on head balls that 2 players have to go up and make contact on? How are we going to head this ball, eliminating head to head contact? I would like to do the research on soccer coaches, their drills, their empirical data, their analysis of what they're doing to figure out what are they doing in practice to eliminate head to head contact. Because I know as a football team, a football program, a guy that does football work on YouTube and social media, I know that we are busting our butt to eliminate helmet to helmet contact. We're busting our butt to teach our players how to make tackles without their helmet involved. I know the work we're doing. I want to see somebody show me the work that soccer coaches are doing to eliminate head to head contact in jump ball, head ball scenarios. Where's the analysis on what they're doing? Where's the evaluation of data on what they're doing? We're the one that's under scrutiny because football is such a physical game with so many collisions, but we're doing the most work analyzing data and trying to keep our players safe. Why are we falling under the scrutiny of football being a non-safe, violent sport when these other teams and sports, statistically, analytically, based on data, they're suffering more concussions than we are, right? So we know as football coaches the battle we face trying to teach tackling. We know the battle we face trying to keep people playing the game that we love, even though it is violent collisions, CTE, neck damage. We know all those battles. But if you really broke it down and tried to create some type of argument with the general public to say, okay, let's put this into perspective. Let's analyze the data. How many concussions do you have? How many players do you have? How many concussions do we have? How many players do we have? If you really wanted to break it down into a town hall meeting, we would have an extremely positive argument to say that our sport is nowhere near as dangerous as these other sports. But no one's ever going to look at it that way. So our job as coaches is how can we teach tackling that is efficient and safe? And to me, it's third-party systems. And again, I'm not saying it's Atavus. If you want to use Atavus, if you want to sit in on a clinic that we're doing with Atavus next week on Thursday night, so be it. If you sat in some of the other clinics we've done and you want the live clinic and the recorded video, so be it. That's your choice. I'm using Atavus because we partnered with Atavus. I talked to him at the AFCA clinic, and as a business, Play Fast Football, and as a high school team, Bishop Kenny, we are partnering with Atavus. This is not a video to sell you on the Atavus tackling system. I think if you want to sit in on next week's clinic and evaluate how they approach tackling and the tools that they have to create better tacklers, that's your choice, right? I'm not going to force anybody to do anything, but I do know as a football coach, it is going to make me 100 times more efficient because they're going to provide all the data that I don't have the time to look at. They're going to provide it in a professional manner. They're a tackling program. That's what they do. Atavus is not going to provide me information on how to defend 3-by-1 open. Atavus is not going to provide me information about how to defend 4 verticals. That's not why I'm going to them. That's not why I'm using them. They're going to provide me information on how to become a better tackler within a safe environment while getting the types of results that we need, right? So, for us, we do tackling circuits 3 days a week. And the reason being is our kids play both ways. Our special teams kids need to be involved heavily in the tackling circuits that we do. Um, Yeah, I agree with you, King. I think it's safe. I think it's in a very good spot, statistically, but we're never going to win that argument. So we got to continue to promote the fact that we're trying to win that argument. As coaches, we're putting our time, effort, and money into a safer and better way to tackle, right? And again, if it's Atavus, fine. If it's USA football, fine. If it's tip of the sphere, fine. Whatever the tackling system is, to me, it makes 100% sense to invest your time and effort into a tackling system, right? No, I agree with you, King. I agree with what sells with big hits. I agree with what sells with collisions. I agree with all that. But the NFL is their own franchise. They're their own business. They have to market their product um, the way they need to market it. And if explosive plays, big hits, collisions markets their game, well, then that's the way they need to market it, right? You know, we need to market the game in a manner that says, how do we keep kids interested? How do we keep kids playing this game that we love? How do we teach the game that we love so that parents feel safe? You know, I don't know if I can ever argue to a parent that running full speed into another human being is safer than a headed ball in soccer. I don't know if I'm ever going to win that argument. I can present empirical data. I can present data that's based on statistics and numbers. But when they watch a soccer game live and they watch a football game live, the size of the players, the explosiveness of the players, the contact, the you know, the car crashes and train wrecks that we see, they're always going to come back to football, right? So it's our job to promote what we're doing and how we're doing it and the safety of what we're doing. That's our job as coaches. And for me, as a content provider, as an influencer, in the game of football and coaching, and I need to give you guys information on what I think we should be doing. And to me, it's trying to find a third party system, trying to put our time and energy into how we're going to get better tackling. How can we tackle safer? What technique do we need to use to get our kids in the position? What is the body position we want to get our kids in, right? Because that's the biggest deal also when you're coaching. How do we teach our kids to get into that position? Can they get into that position live? Well, I don't know if they can replicate it verbatim, but if we're teaching a system that is working on getting them into proper contact positions and then teaching them how to contact and how to finish on contact and through contact, well, what else can we do as coaches, right? So, you know, that's the bottom line. That's what we're working on. And to me, it's using information. Coach Stowell, for us, 90% of the stuff we do is some type of thud to whiz contact, tag off contact. We're constantly talking about the position of being in to tackle, the position of the near foot, near shoulder, closing distance, coming to balance. But we don't spend a lot of time tackling live anymore. It's the nature of the beast. It's trying to keep kids healthy. It's trying to keep kids fresh. So the majority of our time is spent in thud, whiz, tag off, however you want to interpret that or whatever terminology you use. We don't spend a lot of time live tackling. We can't. We want drills to be competitive. We want drills to be physical, but there's only so many things you can do with the human body to keep it fresh for Friday night. So probably less than 20% of our time is spent actually live tackling to the ground. 80% of our time is spent on angles, leverage, technique, fundamentals, tagging off, being in a good position to tag off. What is the good position to tag off? Using every rep in 7-on-7 and whatever reps it are. Do we teach tackling the same way? So if we're 7-on-7 with no pads, if there's a complete pass, are our kids going to rally, close, near foot, near shoulder, tag off with proper technique? That's on us as coaches, right? That's on us with how we teach that. But, to me, doing it in 7-on-7, tagging off, even if it's not thud, even if it's not live, even if it's not whatever tempo you think you're using, can we sprint to the ball? Can we close? Can we tag off? Do we tag off the proper way? You know, that is on us as coaches. So, again, guys, I appreciate all you guys for being here. I knew that I only had about 45 minutes tonight. I knew that I wanted to touch on tackling. Um, we do tackling circuits 4 or 5 days a week. We do it with every player in our program. We do it with punters, kickers, quarterbacks. Everybody's going to go through the tackling circuit because at some point in the game, you're going to be a tackler. If it's, excuse me, a turnover, if it's a quarterback having to make a tackle, if it's special teams, it's our job to use a practice plan. It's our job to develop a practice plan, but it's also our job to put players through the practice plan in areas that they may need. Offensive players at some point are going to have to tackle. They should go through tackling circuits like everybody else. They should understand the techniques and fundamentals involved in tackling. So, again, Atavus is doing a clinic next Thursday. If you want to be involved in that, email me, sting8740@gmail.com. If you've been involved in our other clinics, if you're a season pass holder of those clinics, obviously you're already registered. You know that we record them. You know that you get the link afterwards. But, you know, the reason I wanted to come on here tonight is to sell you that I think third-party tackling systems are 100% worthwhile for you. Which one you choose is up to you. But having somebody evaluating your tackling, giving you a plan of how to get better, giving you a library of drills to use to get better, what other way or what better system can you ask for? If you wanted to run Tennessee's offense and you had a way that you could get a practice plan, a teaching plan, and backup film of drills to do to get better at running Tennessee style of offense, I think you would 100% jump on that, right? You're here on YouTube Live. You're here watching me. Obviously, you're trying to get better and you're trying to use every avenue you can to get better. So why not use a third party tackling system? So, again, guys, that's what I wanted to talk to you about tonight. I wanted to talk to you about why I think using a third party is important, the things that we do to emphasize tackling. We do sprint to close drills every day. We do front foot, near shoulder shimmy drills every day. We do thud tackling drills every day. Do we tackle live every day? No, we don't. But, you know, to evaluate your program and figure out where you need to be to get better, tackling, blocking better be two things that you look at. And if I can help you with how you teach tackling, then that would be, a godsend for me. If I can steer you in a direction to teach tackling better, that would be a godsend for me. Um, you know, if I can provide information on the things that we do and how often we work on tackling, then I've done my job. So appreciate all of you guys being here tonight. Appreciate you being on YouTube Live. Appreciate you being PlayFast subscribers. Appreciate you watching all the content that we print that we put out. Without you, there is no PlayFast football. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for a long list of comments. Thank you for giving your opinion on what you do and why you do it. Thank you for tuning into the virtual clinics that we're doing. Thank you for everything that you do, trying to make this game that we love better, having a passion, having a desire to get better. I appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. Again, I learn as much from you in doing this as you learn from me. Thank you for being here tonight on a Friday night. Thank you for putting your time and effort into making football better, keeping this game where we need it to be because we love it. Thank you for investing your time into the evaluation, analytics, and statistics of what we should be doing. Um, Hopefully, you are doing well. You're of good body and mind. You're mentally healthy. You're physically healthy. If you have spring football, hopefully your spring football goes phenomenally well in the way you want to get results out of your spring football program. Remember, you don't play well or you won't play well until you play fast. Slight hiccup there, live video. You won't play well until you play fast. I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much.